Howdy hi, I'm John's dad. Thanks for checking out my backpacking channel. In this video series we're covering everything it takes to plan for and hike the Kingstrail or Kungsleden in northern Sweden. The entire series of videos is in this playlist. They cover everything you'll need to go from your couch at home to the Kungsleden trailheads you will select for your starting and ending points. In this video, we start an actual Kungsleden hike beginning in the States. I hiked all the way from Hemavan in the south to Abisko in the north. As many do, I choose to hike Nobo or northbound so the sun would always be at my sides or at my back as it makes its way around the horizon, seldom passing below the horizon even at night. Hiking north illuminates the views in front of the hikers, making for a more beautiful hike and some awesome pictures. Along the way, I'll introduce you to many of my friends. The first will be my unicorn, who my grandchildren named Uni. Uni is a girl unicorn. She and I travel everywhere together. When we have Wi-Fi or cell service, we send pictures of our adventures back to my grandchildren. Uni and I did a lot of practice hikes and shakedown campouts together. We dialed in our gear to perfection, with some exceptions. When the day came, we flew from our home to the Newark airport outside of New York City. Before too long, we were on our way to Brussels for another layover. We fit our trip in just perfectly between all of the COVID-19 restrictions and shutdowns. Uni hung out while I took a nap. Uni thought I looked funny, but I had to wear a mask, and I needed to cover my eyes to sleep. When we landed in Copenhagen, all of our baggage came out on the conveyor belt, except my backpack holding all of my gear and food. I was able to come back to Denmark the next day to pick it up, though. No worries. Everyone was really friendly and helpful through the whole process. Uni got to fika with some of her Swedish relatives. A fika in Sweden is having coffee and a small treat with some friends, a new word for you. Uni doesn't really like coffee, so she had a shot of whiskey instead. It made me cough, but she liked it just fine. Once we recovered from the whiskey, we headed out to the store to pick up some last-minute supplies like soft cheese and bacon in a tube. It is shelf-stable and very tasty on everything from bread to crackers, or even just squirted straight into your mouth if you're not sharing the tube with someone else. I decided to send myself 4 resupply boxes along Kungsleden. I covered the details of that in an earlier video, and I also do it in great detail in my book that's available on Amazon Kindle. With help, I finalized the boxes and got them on their way to Kungsleden. My Swedish friend Lars agreed to hike the first week with me, so we coordinated our schedules and we decided to have our first full day on Kungsleden be August 1st. This happened to be exactly 1 year to the day after my total knee replacement surgery. First, we took the train from Gothenburg to Stockholm and had dinner at McDonald's. Then the night train, overnight up to Umeå, in an hour or so change over to a bus for 5.5 hour bus ride to Hemavan. The 5-hour bus ride from Umeå to Hemavan put us less than a kilometer from the southern terminus of Kungsleden. We quickly ate some food and used the last porcelain toilets we would see for weeks. It was a magical and almost out-of-body experience for us. Uni and I had been planning this hike for almost a decade. We were suddenly standing below the sign we had been dreaming about for years. I felt quite out of place. My usual hiking trips are in forests with occasional views of hills and farm fields. When bad weather attacks, I can't really see it. Wind, rain, snow, and even hail reaches me after being filtered by hills and trees. We were above the tree line. Fog and clouds everywhere. Rain coming down gently but consistently. The trail filling with cold water. Swirling clouds sometimes revealed ominous mountain ranges in the distance. It was tempting to call the hike off and follow the trail veering to the left at the top of the hill to the bar. It's in a ski resort that overlooks Hemavan. No one would know if the conditions were really as bad as I would tell them. Except Lars and Uni, they were there. It wasn't that bad. I decided to continue. Everything was new, I didn't know what to expect, what was normal, what was unusual. Was I prepared? I certainly started to doubt myself. We left the iconic Kungsleden sign just north of Hemavan and headed up into the Swedish mountains. The summer Kungsleden is well marked by red or orange blazes painted on rocks or on signposts. You can also follow the trail in the ground. You're not the first one to walk this way. There are other trails marked in a similar manner that crisscross Kungsleden all the way to Abisko, so refer to your map regularly. It was along this stretch of trail that I began to realize that my new Gore-Tex boots were not actually waterproof. Even though Uni and I did many practice hikes, none of them were in the rain. Each step in a puddle flowed water between my toes. This would become a big problem in a couple weeks. We visited our first STF cabin at Viterskalet, where the stern cabin host shooed us on our way immediately after we visited their little store. COVID restrictions prevented us from warming ourselves near the fireplace. I delayed my departure just a few seconds to absorb as much warmth as I could. We moved on another kilometer or so north and set up our tent on the west side of a river for the first time with others making the same journey. A freeze-dried dinner and an early bedtime for us. After dinner, we met our neighbor Ryan, who is studying at the university in Sweden. This formed our first tramily.
This is my first morning on Kungsleden. My first morning in the Swedish mountains. A river going by it. Mountains as high up as you can see. And the sunrise over our home.
In the morning, our new friend Ryan was gone already. We thought he was far ahead of us, never to be seen again, but he was actually behind us by a few kilometers. He backtracked to Viterskalet to buy some food after the store opened. He caught up to us before noon. We hiked north in the valley carved by ancient glaciers past Viterskalet to Servestugorna, where we got lingonberry saft or fruit juice from the kind cabin host. After a rest, we pulled on our heavy backpacks and kept going into the unknown. The cabin host had told us we would find good camping on the west side of the trail before the lake. We saw the Vietnamese girls from the bus camped in a prime spot on the lake. In hindsight, we should have camped with them. There was plenty of room for a dozen tents. Our assumption was that there would be another equally perfect campsite in a couple 100 meters. We pushed on but came to Tärnasjöstugorna before any suitable campsites appeared, 20 miles or more than 30 kilometers on our second day. We picked a campsite down near the lake. I was exhausted and stumbling. I couldn't eat dinner. I was asleep about a half an hour after we put up our tent. I woke early as usual. Uni was not feeling well. All of the strenuous hiking yesterday caused her to barf up all over the outside of our tent. She felt much better and helped clean up the mess. We decided to take it a little easier today. We are in for a beautiful day of hiking surrounded by mountains, water, and reindeer. sky was clear, none of the hills were difficult. I want to talk a little about the mud pits along Kungsleden. I complain about them a lot in my book, and they are never far from the minds or boots of the hikers. This is a fairly typical mud pit. Most of them are not actually filled with mud. You can walk straight through them or easily avoid them by a tiny detour by stepping up on a small rock perfectly placed there for your convenience. You could actually dip your cup into most of them and drink delicious water. There's often a small current running downhill from the thawing glacier up above to the local stream. It keeps the water clean and fresh. There are exceptions. Some are deep, and the mud will suck the boots off of your feet. Some can be difficult to navigate around. Sometimes your only option is to march straight through. Wooden walkways have been built over marshy sensitive areas to protect the plants, but I'm not sure the goal is to help us hikers. But I enjoy the fast and smooth trails the wooden platforms provide. The goal of this video series is twofold. First, it's to encourage you to take on Kungsleden so you can appreciate the experiences that few other people get to enjoy. Second, is to give you an accurate view of what a hike could be like. In support of the first purpose, let's say that those huge mud pits, truly filled with mud, many meters wide and hard to get around, are rare, and you won't even notice them on your way past. Yeah, let's say that. Compared to yesterday, our short 9-mile saunter today seemed easy. We hiked downhill towards Servestugorna and decided to rent a room inside. I felt very comfortable here. The cabin host was explaining something to me in Swedish about the extra crocks they keep at the door in case someone needs to go outside to use the outhouse in the middle of the night. I totally misunderstood what she meant. We both realized it at the same time. I apologized in Swedish with my heavy American accent, saying, "Swedish is not my native language." "Oh, verkligen," she responded. We both laughed. Like I said, it was a very welcoming cabin. Our cabin host suggested that we might want to take a boat ride in the morning to Ammarnäs with Torbjörn. He's a local guy who gives shuttles on his little boat. It would cut off about 8 kilometers of hiking. We had a tight schedule, so skipping ahead sounded like a good idea. She arranged for us to be picked up at 10 a.m. so we could sleep in the next day. We took our time getting ready this morning. Uni and I checked out our hiking plans for the day, and she enjoyed some hot chocolate. The mountain cabin bunk rooms are not heated, and she was still a little chilled. We wandered toward the boat dock so that we would get there at least an hour before Torbjörn. We did not want him to wait for us. At the intersection of Kungsleden and the spur trail to the boat dock, we ran into an old German guy who has hiked every long-distance trail you could think of. He had sewn patches all over his previously ultralight backpack to prove it. Just as we sat down in the warm sun to wait, Torbjörn pulled up in a small boat. He had also come early so that we would not have to wait for him. Within just a couple minutes, we had our life preservers on, our backpack stowed in the bottom of the boat, and we were headed east through Little and Big Pieljekaise lakes. Uni didn't need to wear a life preserver because she floats naturally. Torbjorn went slowly in the shallow parts and told us stories of life in the area. He talked mostly in Swedish, but tried to help Ryan understand all the good stuff by speaking broken English as best he could. I respect anyone who can speak 2 or more languages. It's not as easy as it may sound. Torbjorn pointed out his family's cabin halfway up a hill, where he and his siblings still gather on a regular basis. They have a close family, and they miss their parents very much. We helped Torbjorn pull his boat up on the shore, and then we all crammed into his tiny Volvo for the ride into town. My knee still hurts. His interesting narration of the route continued into Ammarnäs. Ammarnäs is not very big. The grocery store doubles as a general store with tools and spare parts in addition to food and other grocery items. My grandchildren received some postcards I bought and sent from here too. My first resupply box was waiting for me as planned. I moved all of the food into my backpack. It sure was heavy again. We had lunch sitting outside in the sun at Ammarnäs Guide. A local who was driving by saw us and stopped to talk. This was typical small town friendliness. When he learned we were from Gothenburg, he started telling us puns, because that's what the people from Gothenburg are famous for. Ryan had a room reserved in a hostel, so Lars and I headed uphill out of town. We didn't know if we were going to see Ryan again.
This is our campsite north of Ammarnäs. Just off the trail, we find a nice flat spot. Might not be perfect, but Allemansrätten lets us camp here. And it's really nice.
We were protected from the wind by the birch trees overnight. Even though it was a little chilly, we were not cold during our quick breakfast. We worked our ways out of the trees, turned left on Kungsleden, and continued north. Kungsleden climbs up over a fantastic bald as it makes its way to Ravfallstugan. We decided to take a shortcut via Höbäcken, though, to pick up another half day of hiking time. It turned out we didn't need that extra time, but we didn't know that yet. I wish we had gone past the beautiful Ravfalls. The trail down to Höbäcken opened to expansive views. As we descended, we entered the trees again. We took a long fika, much longer than an hour when we got there. Exhaustion seemed to be building on me. I needed frequent rest breaks. We headed north along the river, mostly on four-wheel drive trails, until we rejoined Kungsleden. We passed beautiful ponds and could see blue skies and mountains for the rest of our day. We crossed several substantial bridges today. The summer and winter trails ran together. At the top of a bald where two trails come together, we followed the sign to the north and decided that we had hiked enough for today and started looking for a place to camp. Down in a slight valley was a lagoon near a cabin. It was a perfect place to set up camp, and the only way to improve it would have been to add 25 degrees on either the Fahrenheit or Celsius scales. It wouldn't matter. The wind was cold. Lars was able to get a cell signal at the top of a rise. He called his fiancée on a different continent. Uni and I enjoyed the slow sunset and tucked in for the night. Hiking every day with my heavy backpack was wearing me out. I slept well. It was a cold night last night, but I was warm enough. I imagine that the family whose cabin we camped near must really enjoy their lagoon. Swimming, canoeing. We broke camp and headed back uphill to Kungsleden. We saw herds and herds of reindeer today. We moved slowly and carefully whenever they were near. We hiked along the west side of a series of lakes today. We were about halfway up the hill. Even so, the mud pits got on my bad side. They were atypical. Every mud pit so far had been finite. They all had a start and an end. They all had a defined width, even if it was really wide. These mud pits today were pretty impressive. Be aware that there is a bird sanctuary, Tolmejara, near Snutli. Yeah, you try to pronounce them. You cannot leave the trail except at Snutli. This is an exception to the Allemansrätten law we have discussed several times. We took a break at the trail leading to Snutli. I met a French-speaking woman near the outhouse. We had a nice conversation using a combination of her broken English and my high school French. Uni wanted a snack, so we pulled out the dehydrated apple slices we made with honey and cinnamon. I didn't think unicorns would like them, but Uni couldn't get enough. The rest of the day was windy, but the clear skies gave us unlimited views and kept the mosquitoes at bay for the most part. We were ready to stop hiking for the day and got an excellent recommendation for some hikers going the other way. We set up our tent just above the bridge so that Ryan would have room for his tent too, if he caught up to us as we expected. We intentionally made a smoky fire to discourage the mosquitoes. This was the only day I used my bug net along the whole Kungsleden.
This is what our campsite view was like this morning.
The mosquitoes were nowhere to be found today. A Pop-Tart and some homemade coconut macaroons for breakfast, and we were off. We were getting into the daily rhythm of hiking. Get up early, eat, pack everything into its right place, verify the day's hiking plan, start hiking. Reindeer today, views, gentle hills, bridges over rushing water, the prospect of a restaurant meal at Bäverholmen, maybe even ice cream in Adolfström. This was starting out to be a good day.
If you look closely, you can see the reindeer in the distance. Our morning hike. Not bad, eh? We've just walked a few kilometers from our beautiful campsite last night. Here we're at Bäverholmen's Värdhus. The rumor is they have really good burgers. If you order in advance, which we didn't, they have other wonderful tasty dishes. And if You want to have a good view with your meal? Not the guy without a shirt on. This.
The burger and fries at Bäverholmen did not disappoint. Ryan ordered a second meal as he finished his first. When we were about halfway done, the hostess asked us if we wanted a ride into Adolfström in their boat. We still thought we needed to make up some time and really enjoyed our ride with Torbjorn into Ammarnäs. Our first clue that we had made a mistake was when the boat crew started yelling at us from the dock to eat faster because they were ready to go. These guys had two speeds, accelerate and emergency stop. Their racetrack was marked by buoys showing where the boulders were hidden just below the surface of the lake. We missed most by less than a meter. We recovered from our shock and headed towards the ice cream store. That was closed. Big disappointment. The beautiful trail continued for the rest of the day. Ryan had a total of only 18 days to hike the whole trail and needed to hike faster and further than I could. He found us a perfect campsite with a fire ring and a bench overlooking a lake. He disappeared into the future. We made a fire and enjoyed the sunset.
This has been a hard climb this morning. We've had some hard downhills too, but most of them have been uphills. But I turn around to look to see where I came from.
Once the morning's climb was completed, we started a gentle descent towards Jäckvik, toward a bed with sheets and blankets, toward a pillow, pizza, ice cream, a shower. We took a 0 day in Jäckvik. We didn't need any of the shortcuts we took. I think I needed the rest day, though. It had been an intense week, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally, too. Every day was filled with beauty, and everything was new. The rest day was good. We had great neighbors here, too, but I'll tell you about them next week.
We've had a long hike today, about 7 kilometers, mostly uphill. The last few downhill. And here's our treat.
My resupply box showed up with some external damage, but everything inside was fine. I mentioned in my previous video about resupplying that the grocery store here in Jäckvik will meet all of your needs and desires. The apartment we rented was right on the lake. It's the deepest lake in Sweden, I'm told. It's hard to tell from here. I'm wrapping up this video from an undisclosed location. It was quite an exciting and interesting week. I figured out that 10 miles or 16 kilometers per day is about right. Double that is definitely the wrong distance this early in my hike. In Jäckvik, I gave myself a pack shakedown and sent home with Lars at least a kilo of more than a couple pounds of extra gear. I never missed any of it. Next week is my first time alone on Kungsleden as I hike from Jäckvik to Kvikkjokk. Being alone had a big psychological effect on me. I really started to doubt myself and my abilities. I came near hypothermia one night after hiking a full day in rain and overflowing trails. If I had had the option, I would have bailed. My only option was to pack up my tent and keep hiking. So that's what I did. I will also meet some great people next week. We finished Kungsleden together. Please leave any questions or comments below. I'm still finishing up the remaining videos so I can include more information or adjust as needed. The last video in this series will be a question and answer video. I'll answer the questions that have come in. There's been lots of them. Thank you so much for those. I'll also share the changes I'm going to make for my next Kungsleden hike. See you next week. Please hike and subscribe. It really helps the channel if you share this video with an adventurous friend or two. Hej då!